Good Friday morning, everyone, and welcome into today's daily Bible reading for August the 25th. Today we are reading together in 2 Samuel chapter 23, which has some crazy stories in it about David's mighty men and many of their military exploits and so many things that they were able to accomplish and do for Yahweh and by the strength of Yahweh. Just some crazy stuff within this chapter, but it begins with a very important section which talks about the covenants, the covenant that Yahweh would establish with the lineage of David. And it really probably serves as the focal point of everything that's found here in these last four chapters, 21, 22, 23, and 24, and really goes together well with chapter 22. Chapter 22 tells us about how God was with David and established him. And now it's going to talk most specifically about the establishment of the covenant that he is going to make with David as well. So let me get the text on the screen for us, and we will read along together here in 2 Samuel chapter 23. These are the last words of David, probably not literally the last words that came out of his mouth, but more so the last public words or the last recorded words we have for David. They certainly are very important words. These are the last words of David, chapter 23 of 2 Samuel, verse number 1, the declaration of David, son of Jesse, the declaration of the man raised on high, the one anointed by the God of Jacob. This is the most delightful of Israel's songs. The Spirit of Yahweh spoke through me. His word was on my tongue. The God of Israel spoke. The rock of Israel said to me, the one who rules the people with justice, who rules in the fear of God, is like the morning light when the sun rises on a cloudless morning, the glisten of rain on sprouting grass. Is it not true my house is with God, for he has established a permanent covenant with me, ordered and secured in every detail? Will he not bring about my whole salvation and my every desire? But all the wicked are like thorns raked aside. They can never be picked up by hands. The man who touches them must be armed with iron and the shaft of a spear. They will be completely burned up on the spot. That is these last words of David recorded 2 Samuel 23 verses 1 through 7. Now we have some more stories about the exploits of David's warriors. 2 Samuel 23 verse number 8. These are the names of David's warriors. So let's see how this goes. Josheb, Bashabeth, the Tahkemonite, was chief of the officers, or chief of the three is another way this might be translated, especially according to the Septuagint version. We have some different rankings of men that David has within his army. You have the 3 and the 30 and just mighty men in general. So that's what we're talking about here. This man, Josheb, Bashabeth, was the chief of the officers. He wielded his spear against 800 men that he killed at one time. After him, Eleazar, son of Dodo, son of an Ahoite, was among the 3 warriors with David when they defied the Philistines. The men of Israel retreated in the place they had gathered for battle, but Eleazar stood his ground and attacked the Philistines until his hand was tired and stuck to his sword. Yahweh brought about a great victory that day. Then the troops came back to him, but only to plunder the dead. After him was Shammah, son of Agi, the Harite. The Philistines had assembled in formation where there was a field full of lentils. The troops fled from the Philistines, but Shammah took his stand in the middle of the field, defended it, and struck down the Philistines. So Yahweh brought about a great victory. 3 of the 30 leading warriors went down at harvest time and came to David at the cave of Adullam, while a company of Philistines was camping in the Rephaim valley. At that time, David was in the stronghold, and a Philistine garrison was at Bethlehem. David was extremely thirsty and said, "Oh, if only someone would bring me water to drink from the well at the city gate of Bethlehem." So 3 of the warriors broke through the Philistine camp and drew water from the well at the gate of Bethlehem. They brought it back to David, but he refused to drink it. Instead, he poured it out to Yahweh. David said, "Yahweh, I would never do such a thing. Is this not the blood of the men who risked their lives?" So he refused to drink it. Such were the exploits of the 3 warriors. Abishai, Joab's brother and son of Zeruiah, was leader of the 3, or theirs is a textual variant here, which says of the 30, which is probably more accurate. He wielded his spear against 300 men and killed them, gaining a reputation among the 3. Was he not more honored than the 3? He became their commander, even though he did not become one of the 3. So you see how that all just counts a little bit weird. Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, was the son of a brave man from Kabzeel, a man of many exploits. Benaiah killed 2 sons of Ariel of Moab, and he went down into a pit on a snowy day and killed a lion. He also killed an Egyptian, an impressive man. Even though the Egyptian had a spear in his hand, Benaiah went down to him with a staff, snatched the spear out of the Egyptian's hand, and then killed him with his own spear. These were the exploits of Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, who had a reputation among the 3 warriors. He was the most honored of the 30, but he did not become one of the 3. David put him in charge of his bodyguard. Among the 30 were Joab's brother Asahel. Remember, he was killed by Abner early on in Samuel. Elhanan, son of Dodo of Bethlehem. Shammah, the Haradite. Elika, the Haradite. Helez, the Paltite. Ira, son of Ikesh, the Tekoite. Abiezer, the Anathothite. Mebunai, the Hushathite. Zalmon, the Ahohite. Maharai, the Netophathite. Heleb, son of Baana, the Netophathite. Itai, son of Ribai, from Gibeah of the Benjaminites. Benaniah, the Pirathonite. Hiddai, from the wadis of Gaash. Abi Albon, the Arbathite. Azmaveth, the Barhumite. Eliabah, the Sha'abalbanite, the sons of Jonathan, there we go, I like that name a lot better. Jonathan, son of Shema, the Harahite. Ahiam, son of Sharar, the Harite. Eliphelet, son of Abishai, son of the Maakathite. Eliam, we should know that name, son of Ahithophel, we should know that name. The Gilonites. Hezro, the Carmelites. Paarai, the Arbites. Igal, son of Nathan, from Zobah. Bani, the Gadites. Zelek, the Ammonites. Naharai, the Berathite, the armor bearer of Joab, son of Zeruiah. Ira, the Ithrite. Gareb, the Ithrite. And Uriah, another name we should know, the Hethite. There were 37 in all. And that is the reading of 2 Samuel chapter 23. Again, actually, I'll start with the warriors, come back and talk about the covenant in a moment. We have here these 3 men. Josheb, we'll just leave it at that. Eleazar and Shammah. These are seemingly, best I can tell, again, there's just not a lot of information given to us within the running of the narrative about these individuals. Obviously, we recognize Abishai, we recognize Asahel, we recognize Joab, we recognize those men, the nephews of David, the son of Zeruiah. But the rest of these are probably not very familiar to us. These stories, the details of them are not mentioned anywhere else, I don't believe, except here at the end of 2 Samuel. Although I didn't check in Chronicles to see if they're there. They might be there once we get there in the future. I'm not exactly sure at the moment. But thinking about these men, they are just incredible men, incredible warriors. Remember that whenever David went off on the run, that there were just basically some mercenaries that were gathered to him. And they actually ended up constituting a very lethal fighting force. Remember, the Kerethites and the Pelethites as well were those who joined themselves to David. Many of these men don't seem to be actual Israelites. Many of them seem to be foreigners that now pledge their allegiance to David, even explicitly. We saw mentioned, I think, when in that, an Ammonite, Zelek, the Ammonites, is somebody who is joined with David. But these men were exceptional warriors. They fought with David and for David, and they gained great victories. But it's not that simple, is it? It isn't just that they were incredible warriors. It wasn't just that they achieved great victories, but explicitly stated 2 times in verse number 10 and in verse number 12, Yahweh brought about a great victory on that day. So that's what we need to recognize. These men are tremendous warriors, yes. but Yahweh was with them and blessing them and strengthening them in the fighting that they were doing on behalf of David, the Yahweh's anointed king. That's really the main part of all this. They had great loyalty to David, yes, but their loyalty to David is also a reflection of their loyalty to Yahweh. Now we have this, I guess somewhat humorous story in verses 13 through 17 about David just as he's in the stronghold. This seems to be during the time while he's on the run from Saul. He's like, man, I sure am thirsty. I remember that water got from the well over there in Bethlehem, and that's the best water I ever had. And he just kind of says it out loud. And three of these men almost take that as a challenge, and they think, I bet we can go get some of that water for David, really make him happy. So they go, they fight through the Philistines, get some water, bring it back to David. David's like, what? I can't believe y'all would do this for me. And what he says almost leads me to think that his thinking at the time is, I'm not worthy of such loyalty, but Yahweh is. So he basically pours out this water as a drink offering to Yahweh. Only Yahweh is deserving of such loyalty. So we see some humility, I think, from David here in this moment. But so many great victories again mentioned. Abishai gets a little highlight here. Benaiah gets a little bit of a highlight as well. He's killing not only sons of a great warrior, it seems, and not only this great Egyptian warrior, but also taking out a lion in a pit as well. Just incredible victories gained by these men who are listed here with David. But again, let's get to the last point here, or the main point, I think, of this. It's God that's doing it. God is with these men in all these various battles that they're engaged in. He is strengthening them. He is giving them victory, and things were successful as so long as he was with them. So that's the main key I'm going to take away from this latter section of chapter 23. Great warriors, yes. Great success, yes. But greater God is the key. That's the key to all of it. Speaking about the greater God, let's think about the greater covenant that Yahweh is making with David. This permanent Davidic covenant that is mentioned in chapter 23, verses 1 through 7. I think in verses 1 through 3 and then chapter 5 as well, we are given here the strong, not impression, we're just told straight up basically that this kingdom is certain. This is something that is going to happen. The Spirit of Yahweh, verse number 2, spoke through me. His word was on my tongue. The God of Israel spoke. The Rock of Israel said to me. And then in verse number 5, for he has established a permanent covenant with me. Will he not bring about my whole salvation, my every desire? Yahweh is speaking through David. And here's a very interesting text here where there is, again, explicit recognition of Yahweh's activity in David's life, making him a prophet. Remember, a prophet is nothing but a mouthpiece for Yahweh. So here is David being a mouthpiece for Yahweh. The words he is saying are words that were given to him by Yahweh for him to say. And what is given here? Well, this declaration that there's a coming kingdom that's going to be a part of this permanent covenant that he is making with me. If Yahweh has said it, then it is certain to come about. But secondly, in verses 3 and 4, we recognize that this kingdom is very appealing. It is something that is attractive that people should want to join themselves to. The one who rules the people with justice, who rules in the fear of God, is like the morning light when the sun rises on a cloudless morning, the glisten of rain on sprouting grass. Who would not want to be a part of a kingdom where he rules the people with justice, where he rules in the fear of God? Oh, that we ourselves would live in such a land in which justice prevails and those who are our leaders fear God. I certainly wish I lived in that land. I know there's a lot of great things about our nation, but it certainly cannot be defined perfectly by these terms. But there is a kingdom in which that is true. And that kingdom is the one belonging to Jesus, that it is ruled perfectly by justice, that it is ruled by someone who doesn't just fear the Lord, but who is the Lord himself. And then finally, verses 6 and 7, we learn something about this kingdom, about this covenant that rules it, that it is an exclusive kingdom, that there are going to be many who are able to join into it, but all the wicked are like thorns raked aside. They can never be picked up by hand. The man who touches them must be armed with iron and the shaft of a spear. They will be completely burned up on the spot. These things, these thorns that are raked aside, they don't belong in this kingdom. And what do they represent? They represent the wicked. The wicked have no place in the kingdom of God. They have no place in the kingdom of Jesus. They have no place in the kingdom of the Son of David. We read about that in 1 Corinthians, that do not know that such individuals will not inherit the kingdom of God. It goes through to list so many different sins and behaviors that will keep someone from entering the kingdom of God. We see that here first stated in 2 Samuel chapter 23, that the wicked will not be a part of this covenant. The wicked will not be a part of this kingdom. It is a kingdom that is certain, yes. It is a kingdom that is appealing, yes. But it is a kingdom that will only be inhabited by those who have a heart like David, a heart that is after God's own heart. That's the wonderful kingdom that God is going to establish through David, that is going to be made possible by this permanent covenant that he makes with David as well. If you have any questions or comments about this text here in 2 Samuel chapter 23, please feel free to leave that in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to either answer those or have a good discussion with you to help us all come to better knowledge of the text here. I appreciate you taking some time to read along with me on this Friday. Hope you have a great rest of your Friday. May God bless you in all that you do, and hope that you'll tune in again tomorrow as we read together in 2 Samuel chapter 24. We're going to wrap up 2 Samuel tomorrow, and then on Sunday, begin reading in the Kings. Exciting to be turning the page from the Samuel scroll into the Kings scroll and begin reading about that very eventful chapter in the history of Israel. Looking forward to reading that with you on Sunday, but first, tomorrow, don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Want to finish up here in 2 Samuel 24. Hope you'll tune in then. Take care, and God bless.